People are all over Hasan because people are noting that Hasan's got a $3 million West Hollywood home. Hasan is a socialist, been accused of being an operative of foreign governments. Hasan is previously in text messages claims that he's a white person, and recently is everywhere because he says it is his goal to end white people, to end Western white civilization is what his goal is. Now, I think this dude is totally a sellout, but I do think he's a sellout who is literally pushing and believes, I think he probably does believe in his socialism. I think he's a piece of crap, but he seems to be committed to these positions. But of course, these are foreign operative funded. And I don't even think he's smart enough to know that. This dude's an idiot. So he doesn't even know that, like, and monopoly capitalism at the tip top are actually two sides of a false dialectic. So I think he believes that, because he's not that smart, he believes that socialism is some real establishment movement. So again, as we pointed out in a lot of our videos detailing the history of socialist Marxist movements, you got to understand that for people in these worldviews, they don't care if it's a contradiction. They think contradictions are necessary and good. They don't care if it's hypocritical. There's nothing wrong morally with being hypocritical or lying if it furthers the agenda. That's their explicit stated view. And so people are still mystified, like, could Hasan say he's a white person and then say he wants to destroy white people? Because that's what communism is. Communism and socialism are movements based on and built on the acceptance of contradiction as essential to the paradigm program. That is dialectics. Dialectics is contradictions constantly butting up against each other for all of eternity. I think Lenin said, struggle is the essence of Marxism forever. It is never peace, because every generation has to negate the previous. Even if you think you've achieved the next phase of revolution, you still have to be critiqued by the next generation. So you see how insidious revolutionary Marxist socialist philosophy is. And in his mind, because he is self-consciously Marxist and socialist, he doesn't have to be that smart. It's his ethos to affirm, guess what you say is a kind of moral nihilism or moral relativism, because whatever you do in the furtherance of revolution is justified. You see what I'm saying? Let's take some calls. We'll take calls on whatever subjects you want. Let's see. I wanted to find that. Let's see. Here he is talking about white people again.
Weaver said, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property, it's over, and impoverish the white middle class.
Beast mode. I love her so much. One of the things about Zoran is that the people surrounding him oftentimes are so much cooler than he is. But that's also part of the reason why I really respect what he's doing. She's awesome.
What? That's a goal?
Hey, Jamie.
Mandami's aide, his top aide, Sia Weaver, said, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize...
He'd ever read, with perhaps the exception of Nietzsche. And since you've read Jung, I was curious if you find his thinking perhaps a cut above the Aleister Crowleys, the Manly P. Halls, the other kind of Gnostic. Do you get that sense, or do you find it just to be that kind of same nonsense?
Had a discussion of Carl Jung's books, Archetypes of Collective Unconscious, a year ago when we were doing some of the Peterson lectures. And I didn't really get a whole lot deep out of it. I thought there was a couple insights here and there. But overall, I would say I was a little unimpressed. So I would disagree with Jordan Peterson that Carl Jung is that high tier, honestly.
Not actually real. He's an amalgamation of, like, there was no real person called him. It's just
attempting to be funny, if you guys are wondering what's happening. I'm just kidding.
So the reason I asked Jay was because he made the great point that in Ion, the idea that Jung wants you to integrate the Antichrist as part of your total personality, and that's why he thinks Christ fails.
Right.
That's like the Charles Manson philosophy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know why people think that that's like side tier. To me, it's pretty low tier. Yeah, thank you for a great question there, Eric. And if you go back and watch I actually got more out of Jordan Peterson than I got out of Carl Jung, honestly. So, and I have plenty of critiques of Jordan Peterson. But if you go back to what I was saying when I was muted for a couple seconds there, I was saying that I'm rambling, but I'm essentially agreeing with the point that Elon Musk makes right here. When Hasan says he wants to destroy Caucasian peoples, he means it. And here is the tweet, him saying a while back, oh, by the way, I'm a white dude. Oh, but by the way, I also want to destroy white dudes. And I'm just trying to point out, we did a long diatribe podcast 2 years ago, maybe we did 2 or 3, about Marxism and socialism and how they intentionally accept contradictions. And you don't understand Marxism and socialism until you understand that, right? Because conservatives are always interested in, but let me show you that you are not being ethical. You are being a liar and you are contradicting yourself. They don't care. Yeah, they believe in doing those things. In fact, it's essential to Marxism to contradict. And so what you think is a strength in your calling out their dishonesty is actually their very idea of what your weakness is. Abstract, what's up? I'm not saying you can't call those things out. I'm just saying that conservatives and normie conservatives are just too dumb to figure out that, no, you're dealing with cunning people who weaponize lies and they don't care about what's true and they don't care about morals. Morals are just a weapon because it's ultimately power oppressor dynamics is what's really going on here. Go ahead.
Hey, okay. Ask kind of take on freedom of speeches. I used to really be like libertarian, be like, oh yeah, absolute speech. But now I'm like, stuff online and seeing how people are just so stupid. They're just like manipulators easily. I'm just wondering, like, I don't want it censorship or anything like that, but like, what's your take on all that? Like,
yeah, we would have limitations on speech as any historic Christian nation has had. You're free to blaspheme in Christian nations, historically speaking. So there might be more freedom than you might have in like Muslim nations for speech. But the idea that unbridled free speech is some like fundamental right is Enlightenment baloney. I mean, where do you get that from, right? Where does nature, quote unquote, give you this unbridled right, quote unquote, to free speech? It doesn't exist. So, now, what types of laws or practical effects would actually exist in a Christian society? It's a very difficult question, especially with the modern world, as to how that would be regulated or laid out. I don't know all the answers to that, but I mean, we have the principles at least in place that, for example, no, you can't blaspheme openly. You can't. By the way, we already have limitations on free speech anyway, right? Like you call for violence, right? Go ahead.
Fire theater.
Yeah. So there are already limitations on it, and you can even argue that in a Christian society there would be more freedom in the sense of, because it's actually people that really want anything that supposedly hurts people's feelings. Okay, well, nothing about Christian ethics that would ban or forbid speech based around hurting people's feelings. It doesn't even make sense. But speech that's relating to crimes, violence, libel, slander, which we already have laws on all that kind of stuff anyway. And then I think you would say also things like blasphemy. So, and then probably the arts as well. You can't publicly, speech where I'm promoting, or something. You can't write stories and make movies promoting SRA openly or something. Go ahead.
And certainly, I would hope the rights to vote would be eliminated from certain groups of people, and they're ridiculous. Post-Enlightenment, French idea, like everybody gets right of equal stand, ridiculous. Which is why you use the talking point from leftoids is always democracy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
well, one thing I'll say about Hasan, not positive, I don't like the guy, but he at least is advanced enough in his Marxism, socialism to recognize that he's not a liberal, right? People need to understand that liberals are not Marxists. Marxist socialists hate liberals. Those are two competing positions, at least historically speaking. Nowadays, with college and adults on the internet, it's all kind of jumbled up. But if you go back to the Cold War, the West defeated Marxism, socialism in the Cold War, at least through liberalism. Western liberalism was what was set up against Soviet objectivism and the science of Marxism, right? So remember, Marxism sees itself and treats itself as if it's economic, social science, right? Because Marx, if you remember, he actually dedicated the Communist Manifesto, but it might have been an earlier work, but it's dedicated to Darwin because he actually thought that, oh, I'm actually doing what Darwin's doing, but in economics and social order. And so for him, it's true, but he portrayed himself as literally a scientist, science of history and social order and class order, etc., economic order.
Well, remember, that's why Karl Popper developed his
open society.
The falsification principle, where he developed that. He was actually responding to Karl Marx because he couldn't stand, a Marxist that like the science. Well, that's not science. What's the demarcation?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. And by the way, that's why Popper was actually part of the Western establishment's Cold War approach. Right. This is why Soros named his group the Open Society Institute. It's named after Popper because Popper is anti-Marxist. Now, that doesn't mean Karl Popper is good. It's just pointing out that between Popper's Open Society and acceptance of the Western intelligentsia and establishment to push Popper in the Cold War, that was seen as a useful tool. And it's not the only tool. For example, as we pointed out, I mean, this went and recruited French. They recruited postmodernists to anything that would be set against Soviet was used, whether it's abstract art or whether it's serfdom, anything like that is used. And we've covered that over and over and over. And I'm just trying to point out that Hasan is at least more of like a type of Marxist or socialist of some kind, because he seems to me to actually be anti-liberal. And this is just because people don't understand what liberalism is. But then again, I mean, I'm a huge Hasan follower, so he might not be too retarded to even know any of that. I have no idea. He seems to really just be there to like prop Mamdani at this point. Like, because all I ever see him talking about is Mamdani. But he's like a fan of 9/11, which is bizarre. I mean, it's just a weirdo. To me, just obviously is like something off with this dude. However, he's, in socialism, I guess you could say, today. So if you wanted to have like a liberal, the essence of classical liberalism, it would be James Lindsay, right? And then if you want like the essence of pseudo socialism, it would be Hasan. And those two, you might think, oh, they're diametrically opposed. No, they're actually two sides of the same Enlightenment dialectical coin. That's my point. My point is that one side of the gay face is James Lindsay. Flip it around, the other gay face, like a Janus, is Hasan Piker. Anyway, I don't think Hasan would debate me. I mean, good with these debates. We're traction. We're gaining audience. The Tucker interview was a huge bump. But I think we still got to get up into the 200, 300,000s, I think, on X before we get noticed by some of these other big goobers. And then maybe when we get YouTube up to 300,000-400,000, we can get a little more notoriety or notice. I mean, assuming that's how they think. But who knows? Maybe they would actually come debate sooner. Let's see. Tactical Orthobro, what's up? Yeah, he's an influencer with an idiot fan base. Absolutely. But you know what influencers are? Influencers with idiot fan. I think we have the highest IQ fan base out here. I really do. We've kept the quality. We got high quality standards for our audience base. Go ahead. What's up?
Hey, I was just going to let you know, I know for a fact that Hasan Piker debated Ethan Klein. It was not good. I don't think Hasan Piker will ever debate again after that. And it was kind of like, what's the word?
Go ahead.
Well, Sam Hyde said it best, where he says watching two homeless people fight over a couch that says free on it, and you're just like,
yeah.